not like a multi-millionaires and whatever you see on all the social media and stuff. I've met quite a few wealthy people. There's not one that I will exchange my life with. Not one.
Why?
Why? Because, well, first, a lot of them means they sacrificed a lot of the time with their family. They, I don't know, but a lot of them get divorced. You don't have to be very multimillionaires to divorce. It's half the population nowadays.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that it's not necessarily about them, but I'm just saying that it's not the money that made them happy. No, not at all. Yeah. It helps, like your environment. If you have a safe environment with people loving you, it helps you to be a bit more happy in life. But it's not. It's looking forward to something as a goal. I think is healthy because it motivates you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Your Successful Self. Today, we're talking to a man who, after going through his life, managing businesses and employees, and realizing that how we go about managing people as far as our work in our cultures is concerned isn't the best. So he has founded a company to teach leaders how to go about managing businesses and employees to get the best out of them. His name is Renaud Vandewalle, and he's my guest today. Hello, Renaud. Welcome to Your Successful Self.
Hello, Emmanuel. Thank you very much for having me today. It's a lot of a pleasure, really a pleasure for me to be here. I saw quite a few of your podcasts. I'm becoming a real fan now, so I'm really excited to be here with you today.
Well, I'm happy that you could, tell us, this beautiful message, as with your beginning, with your presentation and your, session with us. Simply because, first of all, the vision that gave birth to what we are doing, it's the kind that it's all about we wanting to help people, But you and I know that sometimes when you begin with some of these things and the resources to help you execute the job as in the way you want to execute it, the resources are in there, it becomes difficult, and over the weeks or the days or, the months that we started this, the lack of resources has been one of the challenges for us. But like you've said, our mission is to help people out there. So in spite of everything, we aim to continue, so I'm happy that you could tell us this, for the sake of our context, for the sake of making our audience know who our guest is. Yep. Whenever I'm beginning every interview, I start from the background of the guest, and I want to do the same with you. If someone doesn't know you, if someone is watching and they have no idea who you are, and they want to know who you are to be able to determine that this person is worth listening to, what can you, say to these people? If I should ask you who you are, like where you are coming from, the things that you've been through, what can you tell me, and for that matter, the audience?
Yeah, well, that's a very difficult question. I think that's a question that takes a lifetime to answer.
Well, it should take a lifetime. I'm interested in that.
Exactly. But, well, obviously, I'm French, if you did not notice my accent. So I grew up in France. And then I've had the... I've been quite lucky, I think, in life. I mean, it's quite a vague concept, but I grew up in a country with that was quite wealthy, in a loving family, and I had the chance to make studies, to become like an engineer, like a master degree. That was, education was quite important in my family. And then I had the chance to lead the opportunity, I would say, that I took, because you have to take those opportunities. I believe that you have to put yourself in a situation to get lucky, to be lucky.
Yeah.
And so I managed to travel to Australia to do internship, and then I stayed there for a few years. Very quickly, I moved from development, IT engineer, into management, because even though it's very fulfilling, to write some code and something magic appears on the screen and stuff, but I really got more interested into people. It's just that I found that even, in IT projects, what usually make the projects to fail, it is the the people, um, the complexity. Even though being a developer, it is complex. There's a lot of complicated things, but it's the whole thing for me. When I got down to the root of the issue, is more about what people want, and how to translate that into the software. So it was really more about also answering the questions of life as well. Always pursuing having metaphorical type of questions since I was very little as well. I was few years old, and like 6 years old, I would look up the window in the night, and I will be asking myself like, what is the hell? Who am I? Well, is it real? Feeling a bit alone, I would say. Anyway, back to that traveling story. I moved quite quickly into management. I'm this kind of person who dares doing things. So I would dare putting myself out there, even though it's very stressful and I don't feel like I can do everything and stuff. But I kind of push myself. So there's different Renaults. There's one that is like, no, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and well, then he's saying, well, okay, too late now. Like trying to take opportunities, and so I've had the opportunity to move again. So I moved to Canada, in Montreal, for a few years as well, where I did a bit more kind of entrepreneurship, because I was doing some business development for the company I worked with in Australia. So I kind of kept my job. And again, project management, managing a team remotely. They were based in Indonesia. So you understand, I was working, in quite odd hours. But very, very interesting experiences overall. And then I moved back to the old Europe, thinking building a family. I traveled to Australia, Canada with my wife, and it was time for us to build a family. Or that's what we felt we wanted to do. So we thought, get closer to family, to share those moments with them. Makes it more practical as well. And here, basically, I had very good experiences working with startups, like a Spanish startup in the CRM system, like customer relationship management system. And so, helping on pre-sales, business development, and like project management with the customers as well. But a very impactful experience for me after all of that is already very impactful, and it was such a interesting experience to me. I'm kind of reliving those moments talking to you now. But I joined a company based in Surrey, very close to London. We were reselling those CRM softwares, and I became a director. I had a team over there that was very interesting, and at some point I had the opportunity to become the managing director. And I was faced with a situation where we had to turn things around. Like, we have to make the business successful, because we've invested a lot of money. Our investors did. And so we had to turn this situation around. And as a manager, director, I thought that something had to change. And I thought I tried everything with my team, And I was really believing that they were not good enough. They didn't have maybe the talent that was required to do the jobs. All of those beliefs that I had, that the problem is not me. Of course, it's not me, right? It's them. It's a lot more convenient. So I decided that actually the only thing I did not change was me. And that's where the kind of the path in my life
turned around.
Exactly.
Now, in your presentation of getting us to know who you are, and your journey and everything that has led you to become the person that you are today, one of the things that stood out to me was about you at a point in your time, I would say, facing some sort of existential crisis, whereby you were at a point in your life where you were asking yourself, who am I? What am I supposed to do? And stuff like that. So what I'm curious to know is how you went about solving that problem. When you found yourself in that space of being confused, of not knowing who you are and the reason for your existence, how did you come about solving that problem? And even after solving it, what did you discover about yourself that this is who I am and this is the part in life for me and I might stick?
I wouldn't say that it is solved. It's never solved. If it
Yeah.
was solved, then I don't know. I think it's a pursuit of
Yeah.
solving it.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, I never had those this kind of. I mean,
Now, if you say it wasn't solved and it's a lifelong
yes,
pursuit of solving it, that moment that you found yourself,
yes,
questioning yourself, with
yeah.
those questions,
I know what you
like
mean. Yeah.
how did you come about something to say
Yeah.
that, okay, fine, this is what I
Yeah.
believe at this point I am, and this is what I must do with my life?
Well, it's I've done so many things to like try it out and to find a mission, and I can't say that it's necessarily a calling or something that came like this. It's just what made sense to me. I want to make
At the
sense
time, what
at the
made
time.
sense
Yeah.
to you at the time?
So really at the time, I was living my life really well. I traveled the world, had a really good position, nice status. Managing director. So everything went really well. But at some point, it's my wife. She did she started a kind of a personal development journey. She went onto a seminar, and when she came back, she was a lot more calm, and I would feel serenity from her, and that kind of like backfired at me. I was kind of like, oh wow, I'm the one being stressed. She used to be the one being stressed. So
Yeah. What's happening?
yeah, what's happening? I thought I was calm, and that's where I was so curious about what happened because she seemed kind of transformed. I'm not saying that all the seminars that transform you, and if you have a coach in 3 weeks' time, you're going to be transformed. Transformation is a long time journey, but
Yeah.
sometimes there's some moments in your life where it's like, wow, what's happening? And so I'm a very curious person. So I thought, I want a bit of that, and I want to find out what it is. And yeah, at the time I was kind of making excuses, saying like, "Oh no, I want to go there just to see what you went through, so I'm in phase with you." But no, I was kind of scared. Like I was kind of like, what's happening
The
to me?
idea of having
Why
to
am
be
I so?
vulnerable,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
were
Yeah,
scared of that.
exactly. Yeah. And so I went through this seminar with Anne van der Zand in France, and it was opening a door to
Yeah.
me in this kind of self-discovery.
Yeah.
When I mean self-discovery or even self-help, I don't necessarily like this the name of it, because I find that you find yourself through others. Like
Yeah.
while you discover things about yourself, your human conditions, your
Yeah.
emotions,
Yeah.
your belief systems, and all of
Yeah.
that, then that's how you also understand more everybody.
Yeah.
And so that's really where it started. And I felt like, oh, I realized that I always looked in the future.
Yeah.
Like, tomorrow's going to be better when I'll have this, when I'll have that, even though I already had everything. I was always thinking, what's the next thing, really?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm happy that, in going about your presentation, you could talk about the idea of self-help and, personal development. You not liking those phrases because in the course of we becoming the best versions of ourselves, it happens through other people. But here is the case, the culture doesn't focus on that, hey, yes, personal development and self-help and all that, but it's not about only you, it's about other people, because in the course of becoming the best version of yourself, it happens through other people, so I'm happy that you could talk about it. But back to your journey again. You spoke about traveling across the world, managing teams and companies and stuff like that. Does that mean when you started your work life, everything started with you as a manager, or before becoming a manager, you went through some process of working under some people, and you rose through the ranks and became the manager? How did that happen? Like, how did things go with you?
Yeah. Well, I think that in in countries like the Commonwealth type of countries, or at least I could say about Australia,
Yeah.
and Canada, and the UK as well. But in Australia, the spirit, and it's not everyone, but that's what I feel in comparison to France, where in France my vision, even though I've not worked in France, but through all of my network and environment in France, it's you get a degree, like a master degree, or whatever degree, and that gives you a ticket to a job, and then to become a manager,
Yeah.
like
You went
project
through the
manager,
ranks.
you have to wait at least for 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Even though you have a master degree already,
Yeah.
it's going to take 3 to 5 years. But
Why is that so?
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, but it's more kind of, well, maybe there's maybe a sense of entitlement behind it. Like, you have to respect older people because they've spent more time than you in the company. And
Yeah.
so they deserve it more than you.
Yeah.
That's that kind of
Now, I will let you
belief, I
continue,
guess.
but with what you've spoken about, so does that mean that, let's say, a new person has come on the job,
Yeah.
even though he's a new person, but his expertise and his creativity and his ideas, it makes him qualified to be at the top, to spearhead,
Yeah.
the organization to reach its goal. Does that mean that even if such a person comes along, if you've not spent 5 years there, you are not going to be allowed to be the top? Or if,
Yeah.
let's say, another person has been with the organization for 5 years, but
Yes.
everything about them doesn't show that they could be the person to lead or spearhead the vision of the organization, they will still put such a person there because he's been there for so long, or what?
Well, every company is different, but that's the vision that I had at the time. Has it evolved? Yes, a bit, I guess, but not as fast as I think it should.
Yeah.
But going back to that story, it's in Australia. They give you that chance. I think in America and the UK as well, it's a bit more like that. Where I think it's because of the system as well. Because in France, the employees, the rights of the employees, it's a really thick book. And so when you there's that saying in France that when you hire someone, you basically get married to that person.
Oh,
because
wow.
it's if that person doesn't perform well, for you to let that person go is very, very difficult. So you better be right when you select the person, that it's the right person for that right job, for the culture of your company as well, which is it's a tough job.
Yeah.
And so over there, I didn't know about it, but they it matches my personality because they let you try, and if you fail, well, next
They pack you to the side.
exactly. Well, next. But obviously they
It's all about giving people the opportunity,
exactly,
allowing people to try and see
obviously
who fits the job.
they saw signs about me that they felt confident enough that they would not put me in front of their strategic customers first. They would, but I wanted to go explore, get out there, and they allowed me to. And I remember, when I've moved to I've moved jobs in Australia, and the managing director put me in front of a customer, and not like decent sized customer, and I was selling myself a lot during the interview process and everything, and it put me out there, and for me to go into that meeting, I'm like, wow. It's kind of the imposter syndrome, and those Renaults, like one saying, "What did you do? Why are you doing that?" And the other one is saying, like, "Too late," and go for it. It's gonna be fine. And so that's because of the environment that I was in Australia, surrounded by entrepreneurs as well. So they just even every time
They
there
kind
was
of
a
groomed
door,
you. You kind of learned from them.
yeah, exactly. Every time there was a door that I thought that I could open, I would knock on that door,
Yeah.
and most of the time they would open it
Open it
for
for
me.
you. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I would go, and well, I kind of managed to meet their expectations, I guess. And so
Yeah.
that's how I've been promoted very quickly. For me,
Yeah.
it was very it gone very fast as well. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, within when I moved to Australia, I was an internship for 6 months, and within a year, I became the manager of the team, and it was a very small team. And so basically, I became the manager of the mentor
Yeah.
who looked after me when I joined, and I was 15 years younger
Oh.
than that guy, and so it's there's a lot of experience as a manager where my first experience as a manager,
Yeah.
I was very young, and that's
Yeah.
what happened to me.
Yeah.
And so it's very tricky.
Yeah.
And I do not recommend to promote someone within the same team, because you're a colleague and the day after you become the manager.
Yeah.
But it was such a very important experience to me. I've learned so much from it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I mean, we'll continue from there, but I want to backtrack a bit.
Sure.
Earlier with your presentation, you spoke about coming from a rich country. Does that mean that you yourself, you come from a rich family? And I'm asking because I want to understand, your background as a child growing up, how, you found the resources to cater for yourself through your educational days, and it helped you become the person that you are. Are you from a rich background, or it's the other way around? Let's understand how you grew up.
Rich for sure in love. That's
Rich in love.
Oh yeah,
not in money.
I can't deny.
Oh, okay.
Can't deny that. Rich in money, like in comparison to the environment we were in at the time, it's kind of medium class. I don't know, like there's always people more like richer than you. So my parents, they were no lawyers, or my mother, she was an accountant, retired now, and my father's a farmer. My background is farming. I grew up in a farm, which is definitely a life I recommend, because it's a lot of freedom and a lot of
you like the life tractors, of the farm, right?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have animals as such.
Yeah.
I mean, we had pets, but it was really a crops type of farm. But yeah, it's there's a lot of freedom living in the rural areas. Always on my bike, and I would not say that I was set in a family where there was a lot of wealth. Not at all, but not poor. I never, we never had issues with bringing food on the table.
Yeah.
But it's more like the rich in love. That's what I felt, and I still feel today. And also in very important values. The values of respect, of learning, and also like of sharing. Like my parents had lot of friends, and the door was always open. So there would people, coming in, saying hello, and friendship is also.
So growing up wasn't that much of a stress for you. You know, it was lovely.
That's why like until I was 30 something, everything's kind of fine, and I did not even realize that maybe it was not that fine, or like there's something missing. Because it's funny you bring that up, because I found that in the self-help industry, in order to succeed in that industry, you have to have had like terrible life. You have to have your parents being alcoholic or committed suicide and all of this, and I understand why as well. It's because when you're faced with difficulties, that makes you grow. So was I lucky to not face difficulties? Yes. But I believe that difficulties help you to grow. So I kind of put myself in difficulties.
Just to have that story.
It's a bit crazy. No, not to have that story, but just so I learn, like get out of my comfort zone. Because this is where I learn. Otherwise, I get bored.
And I'm happy that you could talk about the self-help industry capitalizing on on pain and difficulty. And for me, when you were talking about that, the one thing that occurred to me is that, because I just don't know, but I think because people resonate much more with those stories, that is why people capitalize on that thing
Yeah.
to sell, But
Yes.
at the end of the day, whether you came from pain or not, the question is, are you making a difference?
Yeah.
Are you living for something bigger than yourself?
Yeah.
Are you impacting people's life, positively? Because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like you said, pain is a good thing, but I don't think it's a good thing, in all should I say in all sense. Because at the end of the day, the reason why some of us, I would say all of us in the world, we're embarking on our various journeys is to move away from pain to
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah.
So doesn't it make sense when someone finds themselves in life and there's nothing like pain around them?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we are all moving, or we are all fighting to move away from pain to
Yeah.
pleasure. So I get your point, and I'm happy that you could bring that about. But then again, with the issue of the story that you narrated about you growing up on the farm, it kind of, take me also to memory lane. I grew up at a fishing community. We were poor, we didn't have anything, but life was beautiful.
Yeah.
Because you were poor, what you thought about whenever the day was here was the next meal to eat. And if you can be able to have that, you are in heaven.
Yes.
The next moment we are in the sea,
Yeah.
making fun, and we didn't have a lot of, worry over us, So I appreciate that story as well. Now, I want to go back to your journey. This time around, you've started your working life, you've worked your way through the ranks and you've become a manager and you are traveling around the world. In the course of you managing businesses and then for that matter, employees, which has, should I say, determine the decision, or inform the decision now to move away from that to establishing this company that you've established, to
Yes.
help managers, manage well and help leaders lead well to drive organizational results and achieve their aims. In the course of you being a manager, what are the things that you saw with people?
Yeah.
You saw with other managers and you saw with organizational management in general, in the course of you being should I say a leader and a manager, and because of that you've broken away from that thing today to establish the company that you've established to help other managers.
Yeah. So basically, back to that experience as a managing director, faced with the challenge of turning things around. That it happens about the same time as well as that personal development journey.
Yeah.
And basically, within a year with that team, we actually turned things around, and the company was starting to make money. And I just thought that I've just discovered that world of coaching, mentoring, and leadership training and things like that. And I was like, why did I not hear that before? And what are they doing in that industry? And for like I've evolved mainly in small type of size company, between 10 to 50 employees, and I guess it's down to budget, but. I just found that there's something to do about it, but I did not think about that first. At the end of that kind of project, I was like, okay, I turned things around. What's next? And I thought, well, I have to try something on my own.
If you say you've turned things around this time around, what are you talking about exactly? What was it that you turned around?
So, well, because the company was losing money every year, like
so you're talking about when you took charge as the manager.
That's right. And within a year as the managing director of that company, thanks to the change that I've put in place in my approach in the management style that I completely shifted. That allowed the team. I gave them more space. I actually told myself that's an interesting one. I told myself, well, you don't trust them in delivering the work. In my head,
that is you telling other managers.
No, I was telling that myself. I don't trust them in delivering the job. Now my investor counts on me to deliver something, but he's not gonna support the company for a long time. So I kind of had 6 months in my head that in 6 months' time, if there's nothing that has changed, we're gonna close shop basically. And so I told myself, well, my team, I don't think they can deliver what needs to be done.
I mean, how do you take charge of a team and right away you talk about they not having that should I say that strength or that power to deliver the result that you want? What was going through your head? Was it because of the experience that you had with them earlier that they were under another manager and they weren't should I say providing result or bringing in result? That is what made you say such a statement or what?
Yeah, it's basically the company was not doing well enough.
Yeah,
and so there's a problem. And so which means that we don't have the right team. That's my conclusion. Very, very, very easy because the main reason is because I'm the manager, I'm the director, and I'm now the managing director.
Yeah,
I know what I'm doing, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm supposed to, and so do what I say, and it's gonna work. Why don't they do what I say? And why don't they do it exactly as the way I say it? I wanted to put them in boxes.
Yeah.
And that didn't work. But I told myself, well, the only thing you've not tried is to trust them. But you can't trust them like that. Trust is
it takes time.
It takes time. It's a relationship. You build that over time, and you need to see like results and stuff. I was like, okay, what would you do if you trusted them? Well, I would promote that person who would look after that department, and that would free me some time as well. And so that's what I did. I let people took charge of their actual responsibilities, kind of stopping the micromanagement. Even though I was not, I thought I was not necessarily micromanaging. Now looking back, I was.
That's what
in
you
my
did.
way. Just telling them.
Isn't that crazy that after going through such an experience, whatever experience, you look back and you realize, oh, I didn't do it. I didn't do this thing right, and I was supposed to do it a different way or something like that.
Yeah, you kind of tell yourself I'm not, because I give flexibility. They can arrive a bit late every day. It doesn't matter if they've got an appointment, they can go. I gave some freedom within the way they were doing things, but because it was not enough, it did not reach those numbers, then I told them, well, let's do it this way, and that worked for me, so let's do more of this and more of that. And so I just said, okay, now imagine you trust themselves, now you give them more freedom, and then we'll see. And why did I do that? It's because again, it's part of my personality to dare trying things. And I was kind of if I've got 6 months time, well, worst case scenario, in 6 months' time, we close shop. If I give them my trust and give them more responsibilities and they do things more their way, what could happen? Worst case, in 6 months' time, we close shop. And even worst case, maybe it's going to be 3 months instead of 6, right? But what does it matter? 3 months or 6 months? We close shop. 3 months or 6 months doesn't really matter. So I was like, actually, that's acceptable. To fail faster actually is a good thing, as I learned. So I tried that, and well, instead of 6 months, it did not close shop. So
things turned around, and you had to continue.
Exactly.
Amazing. Now, you've gone through the process, gone through the ranks, become a manager, and when you assume position as a manager, things that you never thought were possible, through some way, somehow, through your hard work and, the learnings that you brought into your role, you were able to turn things around. But you never kept, working as a manager. Somewhere along the line, you decided that I'm not going to do this anymore. And I'm going to start, I'm going to establish a company to help other managers, to bring the best out of their employees to drive, result. Now, the question I want to ask is, before taking the step or making the decision that, you wanted to establish such a company to help managers, I know basically based on what you've seen around organizations and how other managers go about with their leadership, and you realize that is not the right way, including how, you began your own management leadership as well. The question I want to ask is, when you were making the switch, to leave everything behind, the good salaries you were enjoying, all the benefits
Yeah.
and whatever. How did you make the switch? And the reason why I'm asking this question is that often we find ourselves in spaces in life that probably we've outgrown those spaces, or we've realized
Yeah.
that it's not the thing for us anymore.
Yeah.
But because we didn't know better earlier, we ventured into those spaces, and this time around we've gotten to know who we are and the right thing for us, and we want to move to the right thing for us.
Yes.
Sometimes to move away, to make the switch, it's very difficult for people because sometimes they don't have enough resources to be able to cater for themselves for the time being until this new thing becomes successful and they could make a living from it. How challenging or how easy, for you with you making that switch of yours?
I would say the first step where I've quitted that job. We actually moved location again, so we moved to the Alps, to the mountains.
In France, you're talking about?
Yes, in France. Yeah.
Yeah.
So left the job, moved to France, and it was actually I was still like kind of flying out, flying in, but at some point I've left the job, and we were in France, and the first phase I would say was okay because I'd done really well, so I had a lot of savings, so I could go for a while.
Yeah.
And so I went on that journey of first learning about entrepreneurship, more like how to start a business, because I was leading a business, but something that already existed.
Yeah.
And so I thought like, oh, now I want to build something that is my own. And I had a first idea that was in sustainability, like and putting technologies, all the stuff that I liked together. But after 6 months, I realized actually that's not that, because I'm not passionate about. I love sustainability, I love technologies, and but the idea, the core of the idea that I was developing was not me, and that's where I allowed myself. Thanks again to my wife as well, because we were. I remember that time we were walking in the very nice mountains of the Alps, and she was telling me, but why are you not becoming a coach or a mentor? I'm like, but yeah, I had those
why was she asking you that question?
Well, I don't know. She felt like that's something that would.
Was it because she saw something in you as far as our coaching and
I need to
is
ask
concerned?
her, but that's what she felt, because of the things that I'm passionate about. Because I'm passionate about people's relationship, trying to figure out life for myself,
helping
and
people
that's
become the
through
best
people.
versions of themselves.
Yeah, and exactly, and she was like, "Why don't you think about that?" I'm like, yeah, I think that's something I would want to do, but maybe in 5 to 10 years, when I will get, wherever.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, she planted a grain in my head, and I kind of, after a few months, I was like, yeah, why do I wait? Why do I wait to have more authority? Because in my mind, I had that belief that in leadership, unless you are a very successful entrepreneur or you're a manager in a big corporate company where you have that title, that big titles, then people will listen to you, which is kind of true. But I was like,
but not entirely though.
Sorry?
Which is true, but not entirely though.
No, exactly. But that was my belief, and that's kind of what.
And that is the belief of the
me.
masses as well. I was once in that belief as well.
Yeah. So I did not allow myself to go out there, like the maybe imposter syndrome, and so I took on coaching training, and as I said, during that time, like in the last 6 years, when I started that, that door that was open to me in personal development, I did a lot of meditation. I've you read I read a lot of self-help type of books. I would not say I've tried everything, but I've tried a lot of things, mainly kind of on my own through YouTube videos, through the books. I would experiment myself, and I would try to adopt some belief and go deep into it. Like, okay, let's see what that does. And so at that time, became a coach, and I was like, what makes sense to me. I love learning about people's relationship. My background is management. I've got like quite intense and colorful type of experience as a manager. I had a lot of different situations that was very interesting, and so lots of experience in this area. What makes sense? Well, for me, it makes sense to help other managers to do that, and at some point during that journey, I was looking for what's my mission, because I don't care about
The question, what's my mission?
dying with loads of money in my bank account. It doesn't matter, because when you look at things through a very long
broader
time,
lens, yes.
like in 5,000 years, would Taylor Swift be still,
Nobody will
I
even
don't know.
remember her.
I hope she would, but I mean, and it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter. Like your name, your person, yourself, it doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. So, I decided that what makes sense of my mission. My mission for me is to help people to work together, because I'm like, the life is so beautiful. And why do we have all of those conflicts, those wars? And even not talking about geopolitics and everything that's happening in the world, just very locally. I'm sure I've got some neighbors that are fighting, in pain. The pain is very personal. It's what's in your head. It is the physical pain, the hunger type of pain, but it's very personal. And so, because I thought my mission is to help people to work together, to find solutions, to come up with solutions that would solve nowadays problems. And so I thought, how can I have the most impact? And I thought, well, with managers, people that like me, were managing teams, how to help them to, through knowing more about themselves, about their behavior, about the human condition, about relationship, and how can they work with their team, so that their team can express their talent, and find get those solutions that we need. And it's all about creativity. It's all about people.
So you would say, even though before the time that your wife told you that you should be a coach and stuff like that, even though you've had the idea of wanting to do something in that nature, like establishing a company to help managers and leaders of organizations, what your wife told you was what blew the lid of the pan. Like it's what gave you even the edge to even go ahead and do it right away, right?
Well, it's just seeing things from a different perspective, and that's what we do as a coach. We my clients, they come to me, they tell me the problems, and I help them see through a different length. And so her, by saying that, made me question my beliefs about that. Well, but in 10 years, when I will be that person, so that made me question that. And so I've started to look into things, and then I was like, I'm going to try that. And it was it difficult to take that decision? Not necessarily, because the way I see things is that I can always go back. If I become a coach, I don't know what is a coach until I become one.
You became one,
So I need to try it out to see, if it's actually something that is going to resonate with me. And I've learned a lot. I wish I knew all of that when I was a manager back then, because things would have been so different. But you have to go through what you have to go through to learn as well. So I would say that I just want to learn. That's part of me. I dare trying things. So again, I was just going for it. And I told myself that I also wanted to be a leader, leader of my life, but a leader in the way that I feel capable of creating jobs. And and I was kind of saying like, if it's not me, then who else?
Yeah.
I'm just that it's that distinction, or where in a relationship, for example, what's your I've learned that from a book. So what's I don't remember exactly the title, but
Yeah. Yeah. It's
what's
okay.
what do you feel is your responsibility in our relationship right now?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel 30%, or is it 50%,
Yeah.
100%? What do you feel is your responsibility in our relationship?
Yeah. Well, for me, when it comes to the idea of relationship, well, based on the things that I've learned over the years, I like to be all the time, how do I put it? Give my all. Because
Yeah.
if I have to look at the other person, having to bring 50% to the table and me as well 50%, then I'm never going to give my best to the relationship. And the reason why I'm saying this is that I've discovered that it's only when we've approached relationship as in we giving our all without caring about what the other person brings to the table, even though they are supposed to bring something to the table, we can have the best of relationships with people, in whatever relationship that we're talking about in this context.
Yeah. Well, I think that um, that's where I'm going to as well. It's that person. I think is the author of the Compound Effect.
Yeah.
In a podcast, I've learned about that. He says that, well, if you do take 100% of the responsibility, um, then you're gonna make things happen. Like, what I mean is that if you do only one step and wait for the other to make the other step, well, you might never meet that person. You might
Yeah.
never connect with that
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Do you want to connect with that person or not? So take 100% responsibility.
Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking. Like, in terms of entrepreneurship, do I leave it to someone else? Like, I will be a director, but maybe not the founder of the company, which means I leave the kind of the power of someone else, and then which means that I leave that person the responsibility to do it, and
Yeah.
and it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair,
Yeah.
and because I think that I can do it, and then just do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm gonna succeed. I don't know if I'm ever gonna do it,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree with you 100% on that. And now I want to continue from, when you started the company, which is called the Anti-Hero Management,
Yes.
coaching company. I'll come back to that, even
Yeah.
why the name in the first place. But I want to take things from, after you've started the company and in your own ways, the first 6 months was great because you have the resources to support yourself. But after that first, 6 months, things became a bit, should I say, difficult because your resources had dwindled and the company hadn't become successful. So how were you able to keep yourself going? Earlier, you had spoken about your wife supporting you, but I want to understand if the support that you had to keep going,
Yes.
it only came from your wife or others also came into the picture as well.
Yeah, I mean, the environment helps a lot, obviously.
When you say the environment, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, the people around me supporting me. I had a professional network, friends network, a family network. So that helps me, supporting me in my life for sure. But to answer your question, the key was really adopting new beliefs,
Yeah.
which is kind of tricky.
Yeah.
I said, I've gone through. I was meditating almost an hour a day for
Yeah.
like
And how
1 or
did you
2
adopt
years.
these new beliefs?
Well,
How did you do that?
it's through experimentations.
Yeah.
So
If
basically,
you say experimentation, what do you mean?
yeah. What do I mean?
I want
Well,
to understand.
through a lot of different activities.
Yeah.
Through the body, like really to that door that opened during that seminar. It was for me. It was about feeling my body. I was like, wow, oh yeah, actually that's what stress is. I did not feel the stress in my body in the past because I was not connected to my body at all.
Was that seminar your first seminar or what?
Yeah, that's during that seminar that kind of I think that I'm also um, um, someone who's actually quite sensitive, like in terms of in the body. I can feel a lot of things, but I there was a disconnect. between my head and my body. And I realized that, and so it's through what I feel, through the emotions, through the energy. You can talk about chakras and things like that. I've tried a lot of types of meditation, and that's what I experimented in my body and in my mind, that helped me believing it. I've got a very concrete example.
Yeah.
But a difficult one to express because that's something you feel that is very strong. But there's that belief. It's more like New Age type of belief where we are all one. We are all part of the divine and of the universe they talk about. I was going, oh, let's try that. And through some meditative states, I would embody that. Embody is not the right word, but I was, dancing with the world out there. That's really weird. Sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
But it's such a strong feeling, and I could go back to that state very easily. And recently, actually, I've not for a year I stopped meditation because I like to stop things and to see, can I do without? What will it do? Just trying, and. I went back to it like 6 months ago when a friend of mine told me, "Oh, what are you doing about meditation and stuff?" And oh well, it's been a long time now. Well, let's try it again. And within 10 minutes, I could go. Well, yeah, 10 minutes, I would go back to that state.
Yeah.
And that's something you experience through the body as well. So it's not just in your mind. And because you feel it so strongly, then it becomes a belief that you are conscious about as well.
Okay.
So I'm not like a crazy dude in the street feeling connected to everyone all the time. No. But
It's crazy.
But spiritually, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that belief system and spiritual journey is key, because if you look at it through your conscience, yourself, your life, what's physical, what's the point? There's this very famous actor, Jim Carrey, a crazy guy. He said that I wish people would knew what is fame and what it is about earning so much money, because they will find out that it's not going to make them happy.
Yeah.
Right. I guess he was going through something at the time, but even though I'm not like a multi-millionaires and whatever you see on all the social media and stuff. I've met quite a few wealthy people. There's not one that I will exchange my life with. Not one.
Why?
Why? Because, well, first, a lot of them means they sacrificed a lot of the time with their family. They, I don't know, but a lot of them have been divorced. You don't have to be very multimillionaires to divorce. It's half the population nowadays.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that it's not necessarily about them, but I'm just saying that it's not the money that made them happy. No, not at all.
Yeah.
It helps, like your environment. If you have a safe environment with people loving you, it helps you to be a bit more happy in life. But it's not. It's looking forwards to something as a goal. I think is healthy because it motivates you. But you have to be able to detach yourself from it completely.
Yeah.
Like, which is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
In the past, I was doing things for myself, for my own success. I did quite well in my standard, becoming a managing director of a company, but I did not tap in my full potential, and I don't know if I'm tapping onto my full potential, and I will never know. But the only way to move towards that is to try, and to go out there, and to put yourself out there,
explore,
get out of your comfort zone and just go. You go, like I've done a few years of took a few years of drama lessons. I we'll come back to the book, but I wrote a conference, a drama conference, that started the book after that, and during those courses, it's really like when you go up there on stage, you know, yeah, you know like your lines, you have to put yourself in that character and stuff,
Yeah.
but at some point, you know, like um, you have to go out there.
Yeah.
It's your time. You have
Yeah.
to move,
Yeah.
and whether you're ready or you're not, whether you feel ready or you're not,
You have
whether
to
you're
go.
stressed or whether you're confident, you have
Yeah.
to go out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's that feeling where there's I've heard that phrase very recently, that is jump and the net will
Yeah.
arrive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really what it feels like. You jump and you don't know,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
jump and you
Yeah.
see. And that's really something that I've done a lot over the years. That is kind of part of my personality that
Yeah.
has helped a
Yeah.
lot.
Wow. What an experience.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
I mean, I love your story, and I want to continue from there. And this time around, you've established the company,
yes,
the Anti-Hero Management
yeah,
Coaching Company, and your aim is to help other managers, manage, their employees to drive results.
yeah,
First of all, why the name Anti-Hero? And
yeah.
when you had established the company, how did you keep your sanity, till the time that it became successful? Because everybody, including myself, when we establish something, a business in this respect or in this context, our aim, is to make a living from it, a profit from it. Because
Yes.
first of all, even though it could be that because we love it, that is why we want to
Yeah.
do it. But the idea of having to make a living from it is also important, because you do not want to be in a space whereby what you do as in what you love is different from what you make a living from. If
Yes.
you are in a space whereby these two things are not together, life becomes really difficult for you.
Yes.
So, like I've said, why the name, that name first of all, and
Yes.
until, it got to a period whereby, the business became successful and you were able to make a living from it.
Yeah.
How were you, keeping your sanity? Because it's crazy.
How to keep your sanity? It's a good question.
Yeah.
So, anti-hero management, it comes back to this self-help and leadership industry where people put themselves as superheroes, and that's actually in a lot of companies they are saying, you're the superhero of yourself. As a manager, you have to be a superhero.
Everybody's a superhero.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
Yeah.
I've always been fan of superheroes. I'm
Yeah.
a fan of Marvels, and when I was young, Superman. I was so much waiting to be able to fly when I was a teenager. Did not happen.
That is fantasy.
I like superheroes and having that, feeling that way. But you can't relate because you don't fly. You're not super. You are who you are. You have your strengths. You have your
Weaknesses. Yeah.
And so I thought that the message out there did not help me. And I thought that it might not help others as well, because it puts a lot of pressure. And it puts a lot of pressure on
You mean
myself
the
as well.
superhero message?
Yes. And for myself, in my journey in personal development, I was kind of like, well, I'm trying all of those things. But, I've got a vision board.
Yeah.
I do a lot of different things. And, well, it's not happening, like what's going on? I do all of those meditations, where I visualize things and everything, and it's not happening. So there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's not the message.
You mean that's not the right message?
Well, it's just that I believe that I got confused, and a lot of people get confused because this is, you want to have that feeling, and for like the first 2 years in that journey, I was very happy, but I was in kind of my bubble. I felt really happy, but I was not necessarily connected with reality. I could, what I'm saying is that my situation was not sustainable. I could live off my savings, but at some point that would stop. And so that's why, the superhero anti-hero management, it came from the fact that what if you did not need to be a superhero to be a good manager? right?
Like you can be yourself, just be ordinary and be yourself.
Exactly.
Whatever that you are,
The
you
best
can be
manager
in
you
that
can
space.
be is to be yourself.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Yeah.
It's a big question.
Yeah.
But what I mean is that you don't have to be someone else.
Yeah.
And it's not there's lots of great leaders, and I love
Yeah.
them sharing their experiences and how they did things. This is great, and people should continue to share their journey and what they're doing. But telling people, if you do what I did, you will achieve
My results,
the results.
just as I have achieved.
This is a lie. This is a lie. Like, yes, we have like we share some the human conditions, we share emotions, and there are tools and ways to to move towards their kind of results. But
everybody is different.
You know, we're all unique.
Yeah.
And there is no one way to become a good manager as well. So that's the whole purpose of my message and the book as well is the book is not a recipe. There's no recipe. You have to make your own recipe. There are lots of ingredients out there, and I'm sharing the ingredients that really resonated with me and that helped me.
Like
but
this is the recipe.
But my clients are not me.
You take what is right for you to go along with your journey.
And that's why it's all it's a tailor-made approach. Like coaching is very much tailor-made. I don't only do coaching. I'm developing tools as well in the technology.
I see
areas.
that you do speaking engagements as well.
I do some public speaking, which is everything that needs to be done for me to pass on that message.
And this time around, like I asked earlier, with your sanity, how were you keeping it until the business became successful?
I don't know if I'm really sane, actually.
You appear to me like someone who is very sane,
But, well, craziness is good. Craziness is, that's,
kinda.
Yeah, well, you have to be creative. You have to think
crazy
outside the box.
Yeah, like I am.
The best ideas that comes to you, when you tell it the first time, they are crazy.
Yes.
But then when you look deeper, they might not be as crazy. So sanity, well, difficulties as an entrepreneur.
And when I talk about sanity over here, I'm talking about your mental health.
Yes,
because being in that space whereby you know that I've got this amount of money to live for this period of time. And until, like after that period of time, if what I've set my mind to, the business that I've established, if it isn't successful to make a living from, it's gonna, be it's not going to be a good story for me, so I'm looking at how you were able to level up over here, like keep that mental health in touch, until you go to that space whereby the business was successful and you could continue from there.
So again, that's very much a journey. So what I'm saying is that it's still happening every day. Because why do I risk all of that where I could be having that job which I had in the past, and now I could do even have another better job, and so it's really like a kind of a mental exercise. That it's the small things that you do every day that helps you going through that. And obviously all of my journey and all of the stuff that I tried, I know more what works for me, and so I can apply them to this. So just to go back to that question is I had resources, and I had to go to
resources,
the point
talking
where,
about the money,
like
the
in
money.
terms of having food on my table, supplying for my family, but I had to get to the point where it became too difficult. Like I've never risked not having food on the table or a roof over our head, but it's always I can see that things are going well. Every few months, I still tell myself, is it worthwhile? Like, you would be a lot more comfortable doing this, doing that, because as an entrepreneur, you want to reinvest as much in developing. Because what's important, as I said, I don't work for myself anymore. I work beyond myself for that mission. That's what makes sense to me, and that's what fulfills me as well. And so the aim is that message. And what do I have to do? I'm on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's a joke to me to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
I would not do it for myself.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? I don't need that
Yeah.
to be wealthy enough
to be flexing out there.
enjoy,
Yeah.
have those nice travels that I've done in the past and everything. No, that's a lot more difficult to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But that's what makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So how do I go through about the difficulties?
Yeah.
I work with them every day.
Yeah.
Every day I work with them.
Yeah. Now, the reason why I asked that question, is that even back to what we were saying earlier with, the switching of careers.
Yes.
As I'm speaking with you, or as you are speaking to me today, there is someone out there.
Yes.
Who in their heart of heart, they know that this space that I find myself in, which is the job that I'm doing or the career that I'm pursuing with my life, it's not the right thing for me.
Yes.
And they want to switch to that very thing that they feel like it's the right thing for them.
Yes.
But making the switch, it's very difficult because of lack of resources.
Yes.
Fine, sometimes they may have savings, but the idea of what if I take the jump, back to the jump thing that you were talking about.
Yes.
What if I take the jump and along the line, I've exhausted all my resources, but the thing hasn't worked out. What am I going to do?
Yes.
I'm going to be a failure. I'm going to be probably a laughing stock, before my friends.
Yes.
And to have to go back to that job, it's a whole dicey situation, and the reason why I asked you that question. So if someone is watching us and they are in a similar situation, based on your experiences and what you've gone through to become the person that you are today, smiling, looking joyful and happy all over, what can you say to them?
Well, I would say to them that there's a book called Turning Pro.
Yeah, Turning Pro.
Yeah, there's one quote that he said that was really interesting.
What is the author's name of the book?
I don't remember. I'm really bad at names.
I'll search for it.
Yeah. So his quote is, "The tribe don't care." Which means that we take too much
the tribe
credit.
As in our family, friends,
yes,
or stuff
well,
like that.
It was just speaking like ancient times with tribes, that survival instinct, that you have to belong to the tribe, and he's just saying the tribe doesn't care. Like people don't care about you, in the sense that people are too self-conscious in general, and so you being a failure or whatever, it's you believing that. If it's more your feeling about yourself than what other things, because they don't think that. They don't care. Like, you're a failure, well, they're more focused on their life and what's happening in their life. And what is it to be a failure to that person? Why do you care? That was really something that I've learned along the way as well, because when you've got a status, I was the kid. I'm a part of a family of 4. I've got 3 siblings, a sister and 2 brothers, and I was the successful one. Having an engineer degree, traveling around the world, living in different countries, being bilingual, and managing director. I would leave all of the status, like that status. It is difficult, but through this journey of discovering, then you try to detach yourself from that, and don't take yourself too seriously. Nobody cares.
When you talk about detachment, what do you mean? Are you talking about the result?
Yes. Like, I'm doing all of that. I've got a book. Is it going to sell 1 million copies? One part of me is like, I do care much, because I put a lot of energy in that, and I want that message to pass to the world, to make people to work together, and so we don't have as much conflict and less pain, right? But in another way, it's not for me to tell, and it doesn't really matter, because even if it sells 1 million copies and I become a billionaire, who cares?
Yeah.
And like, I'm not sure it's going to be necessarily good for my family as well. But like when you've got, like I believe that materials,
Mm-hmm.
you don't. They don't belong to you. Materials, it owns you. So you
Yeah.
don't own things.
Yeah.
Things
Things
owns
own
you,
you.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm very much like minimalist.
Yeah.
I'm trying to take that mindset on.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, it's quite difficult in that consumerism.
Society.
Yeah, but the message is it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
In the whole scheme of things,
Mm-hmm.
everything matters and nothing matters as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if you believe that you don't care
Yeah.
what's the results going to be, then if it's good, if it's bad, you try it, and it allows you to take action and to move. So that's the whole purpose for me. It's to put the pressure down. So people are like, well, what do I have to lose? I want people to be in that mindset where I've got nothing to lose.
I get your point. And now you've written a book out of it, The Intergalactic Journey of a Manager,
Yeah.
the anti-hero mindset for modern management, based on your experiences and what you learned along your journey. And for that matter, establishing the company that you've established to help
Yeah.
other leaders in other organizations manage well and drive, results. First of all, someone will say, let me put it this way: if there is anybody in the audience watching us, being a manager or whatever, someone interested in managerial stuff and they want to learn, the ins and outs of it to be able to become a better manager or whatever that they seek to achieve as far as those positions are concerned.
Yes.
The question is, why do they have to care? Why do you think, it's so important for them to grab, a copy of the book that you've written, to help them with their journeys?
Yeah. Well, it's obviously based on my journey, and if you're a manager and you feel like your team is not performing, if you've got relationship issues with some person within your team, everybody's quite good, but that person, man, there's always one. There's always one.
Always that one person.
Always that one.
Who is a pain in the ass?
Well, yeah, that's what you feel.
Yeah.
But what I'm expressing in the book and the tools that I provide is really to help them to deal with this situation, but also to feel more serenity within their role. Because as a manager, whether you are a new manager, that's there's something new. It's a lot of pressure. There's that imposter syndrome. Who am I to manage this team? Talk to my team like, wow, I'm on the pedestal now.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily easy. And so I really want to help them to get to kind of transform their team. And I'm not saying that their team should remain the same, that they would not have to let go of some people.
Yeah.
It might happen.
Yeah.
But to really tap into the potential of their team through their management style.
Yeah.
And it's really to allow them to develop their own management style, again putting the pressure down, saying that you are unique.
Yeah.
You are unique. You've got your own strength.
Yeah.
You have your own environment, your own beliefs. And you can start with that. In the book, I invite people into an intergalactic journey, right?
Yeah.
To explore the universe of management.
Yeah, and that is where I'm coming to, because with my read of the book, what I discovered was that the book is a non-fiction book, but you write it from the angle of fiction.
Yes.
You make it a kind of novel, storytelling, fable kind of book. Why did you choose to write a book in such a manner when it's a non-fiction book? It's all about, giving people lessons when it comes to effective, management and effective leadership.
Well, it's because I've been reading a lot of books in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And even though I do read a lot of non-fiction technical books, they are not the ones that I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
And I wanted the reader to have an enjoyable experience, to make it easy for them to read.
Yeah.
And also because of all of the books that I read.
Getting entertained while getting value as well.
That's right.
How Patrick Bet Davis puts it. Valuetainment.
Yes, valuetainment. Yeah. No, it's a really really interesting word.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and it's also, I was thinking of what's the best way to pass across this message. What's the best way to do it? And because I've
The message, which is the anti-hero mindset for modern management.
That's right. Yeah. How do I pass this message to the world? What's the best way to do it? Through a book,
Yeah.
through public speaking, conferences,
Yeah.
through developing my own
Podcasting. Yes.
company, doing
Yeah.
podcasting, etc. But through the book,
Yeah.
how can I make it impactful? And because of a lot of things that I've read about this, is storytelling is very powerful, and I tend to prefer those books as well. So actually, the first version of the book was totally different. The first version of that book was very non-fictional
Yeah.
and very, that book said that, this person said
Straight
that,
to the
and
point. Yeah.
straight to the point, giving some real life examples, or I mean, it was still like the intergalactic journey of a manager, so it was still like very much using this metaphor. And of that universe, but there was not a lot of storytelling, and so I actually rewrote it almost completely
Yeah.
to create new characters, so that
Yeah.
Patrick would go onto some planets
Yeah.
and talk to some people that will share their experience, and it was so fun. Like
Yeah.
the second time I wrote it, I took so much pleasure in creating those people and these events. It's all about how to make it also joyful to you.
Yeah.
So
While absorbing the lessons.
so for me, it's a way to pass that message and be more impactful. And so I thought, like, tell a story. I know that people, they want also something very concrete.
Yeah.
Because it's nice to have the idea, but how do I put it into my life? And so my coaching skills was like, okay, maybe put some questions at the end of each chapter, so that people can ask themselves and kind of relate to it, and see how they can put it in practice. And I know that some people, questions are not enough. They actually want an exact path of, well, tell me step by step, what should I do? Then I gave some advice. But the point is, as I say in the intro of the book, is that if that planet, this chapter, did not resonate with you, don't read the questions. Don't go with the advice. It doesn't matter, because it's not you. And maybe that planet, that concept will resonate with you later on in your life, but not now. So it doesn't matter.
I mean, I'll continue from there, but I wanted to show it to our screen, so that if our audience are watching, which they are doing, it's not like
Yes,
if
they are.
they are doing, they can grab a copy for themselves and help themselves with it. Now, if you are a leader out there, if you're a manager of an organization out there, I wouldn't want to talk much over it, but I would say this is one of the books that you need to have in your library, because I have gone through it, I've read it, and I know the content found in it, that it's very helpful as a manager. If it's very helpful as someone who who is managing a team under them, and it's going to help you if you have any idea of becoming a manager someday, now or whatever time in your life. The book's name is The Intergalactic Journey of a Manager, the Anti-Hero Mindset for Modern Management, which we obviously have one on the screen as well. And you can, grab a copy for yourself and help yourself with it. Now, for me, just like yourself, because I read a lot of books, whenever I have picked any book and I'm reading it, unlike the average reader, there are so many things that I check when it comes to the books that I'm reading. And for me, one of the things is about how the writer wrote the book, his writing style, the message that he seeks to present, how he presented it, So when I was reading your book, I did the exact same thing with your book, and I must recommend that, or I must commend you for how you wrote it. That the style that you wrote the book, it was so phenomenal, and I loved it. And one of the things that stood out to me, which I also do with every book that I read, is I first of all look at the first words, when I open a chapter, and looking at the words that you started with your book, it kind of gave me the idea that this is a good book and it's worth reading. So let me just dig into it. And these are your words, and they are the first words that you started, with the book, and you said, welcome to a new era of management, shifting from shareholder focus to valuing meaningful work. When I read those lines, I was like, something is changing. Someone is bringing, some sort of knowledge, and wisdom to the management world, to let people know that, hey, the organization is all about the shareholders, but at the end of the day, whether the shareholders are going to get what they aim to achieve, take care of the employees first, because the employees are the one who are going to drive the result for these shareholders. So I want to ask you, why did you start with such a phrase? And in the course of your own journey, what are some things that you saw when it comes to management, dealing with employees and dealing with shareholders, that maybe you saw that all the time the focus is on the shareholders and not the employees, and you started in this direction?
Yeah, well, that's how industries has worked for a very long time in the
Yeah.
past. Shareholders, like in big corporate, during their annual conference, they would
Yeah.
say, talk about the shareholders,
Yeah.
and they will talk about shareholders first. And I understand, because without the shareholders, there's no company, there's no jobs, etc. So it makes sense, but it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
We are not in, I believe, I'm very optimistic and
Yeah.
positive thinking. So
Yeah.
I believe that the human race is evolving.
Yeah.
So that we are evolving, and what worked in the past doesn't work anymore. So nowadays, and with the technologies and everything, you have to look, especially with AI, artificial intelligence. It kind of create that crisis of human having to ask themselves, what are we good for? Like, what's our value? Because AI will replace a lot of job, has been replacing already some jobs. So that's very important for me to say that we have to change. We can't do things the way we used to do it. We have to look at people as they are, and look at their potential, and put people first. And for me, people, what's the difference with the machine? Well, a lot. And like, you've got the emotions, you've got the creativity, and right now, the technologies, they can't do all of that. And to some extent, you can't replace a human being. I think technologies are here to help us,
Only
to serve
to
us.
a certain
Yes.
extent.
I don't know what's the future holds for us, but we can't manage the way we've been managing in the past. It doesn't work anymore. People don't think the same way. Like my grandparents, even my parents, they don't look at the work values. Are not the same as nowadays. Nowadays, people are not looking at their job as a mean to an end. Like, they don't look at the job as something the most important in their life, and as a value that fulfill them and brings them joy. No, it's not. And in a way, whether it should be, it shouldn't be, it's not for me to answer. But I think that we have to work together to tap into our innovation potential to create those solutions. Whatever industry, there's some industries that you might not share a lot of value with, because they, let's say, my wife is in iron ore, right? So they have mining, they have mines, they dig, it pollutes and everything, right? So you're in this industry, and you feel like it's not, you don't share those values. I don't believe that because you don't share those values that you cannot fulfill yourself within those jobs. Because at the end of the day, what's the problem with iron ore? Well, it's people buying iPhones and cars. If you stop buying iPhones and cars, they will not dig anymore, because they will not sell steel and the construction industries and everything. So, so what I'm saying, it's not just about the company image, the company values and everything. It's down to the manager. If you do have a good relationship with your manager, your employee would want to stay with you. And I saw that so many times, that people stick with their,
Like, if you have
that
a
company,
good
not for the company but for the manager.
if you have a good relationship with your employee, like, they are going to stick with you for the long haul.
Yeah.
Now, Before we run out of time, I want to look at some of the lessons that you share in the book, so
Yes.
that if there is anyone watching us, they will be able to get to know that
Yeah.
if I grab a copy for myself, this is the value that I'm going to
Yes.
get from the book. Now, in reading the book, I came across something that I believe you don't subscribe to, and you spoke about it profoundly. And it's about the issue of micromanagement.
Yes.
Why is it that you don't subscribe to the idea of micromanagement? And is it that you feel like when a manager is micromanaging his or her employees, it doesn't bring out the best in them, or what? Why is it that you don't subscribe to that thing?
Well, because when you tell there's a story that I share in the book, actually, which I'm happy to share right now. Is when I was a young kid, I wanted to please my parents, be a good son.
Yeah.
And so we would have a meal together.
Yeah.
In France, meals, this is where we socialize. So it's very important as a family. And I was thinking the whole way through the meal that at the end of the meal, I would be the good boy, and I would, clear the tables
Yeah.
and clean everything, and my parents would be so proud of me. I was in that feeling.
Yeah.
Towards dessert, straight, the end, we finished the dessert.
Yeah.
I don't have time to stand up to actually do what I plan to do,
Yeah.
the right thing. My father tells us, like as kids, okay, now please clear the table before you go to bed or whatever. Suddenly, there's something that shifts within me.
Yeah.
I think it's not just me, but
Yeah.
it's like it's not my idea anymore.
Yeah.
It's my father's idea.
Oh, okay.
So I don't. So now I don't want to do it because someone would told me to do
Because
it. So it's
you
not
felt
my
like
idea
someone
anymore.
is
Yes.
trying to control you
Yes.
instead of
exactly,
you
yeah.
having to do things
So
from your own.
so when
will.
you tell someone step by step how they need to do their work,
Yeah.
that's what it feels to them, even though they would have done the same thing without you telling them, because they have
Yeah.
the same same way of doing things, which makes it easier as a manager, because when people are doing the way you think they should do, then obviously you feel they're doing the right way.
Yeah.
But that's really the this idea that if you do this, then the person is not gonna perform as much,
Yeah.
because he's sometimes I'm not saying that as an expert in the field, because usually when you're a manager, it's because you are an expert in that field and you become a manager,
Yeah.
which is not necessarily a good thing,
Yeah.
but it's the way it is in a lot of companies.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you cannot give advice and tips, but again, it depends on your
The idea of having to be on people's neck all the time.
There's a way to do it, and what I'm saying is that I'm not telling you this is the way you should.
Yeah.
Own it to yourself. How would you do it yourself?
Yeah.
You prefer to give tips? Well, try to give a bit less tips, just to see what happens. I'm not saying you should not give tips anymore and just ask people questions and coach them through. Like there's this manager coach type of idea, which I think is great. But it's really about you, your style. How do you own this? And so the idea is very much that if someone has an idea, and it comes from them, then let them own that, because they will be a lot more engaged in implementing that idea. They will do it their way, and you're more likely to get some very interesting results. And obviously, that person will be a lot more fulfilled in their job, and so a lot more engaged as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm happy that you could speak about that very thing like you've done, simply because bringing it to my own self, I'm that kind of person that if I happen to work with you, well, first of all, before I make the decision to even work with you, then it means I want to, So when things have come around like that, I would love to give my all. So what I would need from you as a manager is to tell me that this is our aim, and this is what we want you to go about it. After telling me that, that's it. Just allow me to do my work. But if you should come around and be telling me stuff as if I'm a kid and I'm, quote and unquote, unmature, come on, And I believe it's also the reason why sometimes when people find themselves in spaces like that, they don't give their all, because then the message that you are sending out there to them as a manager is that they are immature, they are kids, and you have to control them and be telling them what to do when ordinarily, or when in reality they are not kids, they are matured human beings and they know what to do at every point in time. Now I want to come to some of the lessons that you shared in the book, but I think because this thing is very important, and I think it's where everything begins from. I want us to begin from that very thing, which is listening. Talk to me about the importance of listening as far as management is concerned, like as far as doing your job or going around your job as a manager and managing people. Why is listening so much important?
Yeah. Well, I think that listening is a concept on its own. I'm not when you say listening, the first thing you think of is listening to people. Right. But what does that mean? You can listen through your ears, through your eyes, through your other senses as well. There's a lot of ways to listen to, and there's also listening to yourself, to your emotion. What state are you in right now when someone tells you this or tells you that? So and listening, there's so many ways to listen, and that's why I'm trying to pass on that concept to people, is that I felt like I was not a good listener at all. I would listen to myself every time. I wanted to show up as being smart, and that's what kind of put me in that situation of becoming a managing director in a way. But the thing is that when you do that, you prepare your next sentence, which means you're not listening to that person. And the listening, as a coach, you get trained a lot to listen. So that was great value for me to learn that. You learn when you listen to people, you let them think. There's a book from Nancy Klein called Thinking, Time to Think.
Time to think.
She's talking about the thinking environment.
I'll
Time to think. This is a really great book about listening. But it's really the whole concept of if you listen to your emotions while you're interacting with that colleague, that colleague that gives you a lot of problems. That's interesting that you feel this, that you understand this, and that you listen to all your senses, that you listen to other people. So that's a very big concept, but I believe that is key in a relationship, because in a relationship it's I'm not saying circular, but I would say that it's an exchange. Right? You can't be in a relationship by yourself. So,
and you also spoke about another lesson which I loved so much, which is the issue of empathy. Why do you think the idea of empathy, first of all, is a good thing to bring it about in a managerial role? Like, why empathy? Because our job there is to work, and my job as a manager is to ensure that the vision that has been handed to me, working under me as an employee, I drive that vision so that we all achieve the ultimate goal, or the common goal. So I want to understand why empathy, first of all, and why do you think we have to bring that into our managerial skills and roles?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because when you say empathy, again, that's what I'm putting those words and concept to the test in my book, because it means a lot and it means nothing, and like depending on the context and the person. When I say empathy, some people would be like, oh, it's about acknowledging others' feeling. It's about feeling others' feeling, and having this is a superpower, or actually it could be terrible as well, because when you feel someone's stress all the time, it's hard for you to,
and and it's why when I read it, I was like, I tried to wrap my head around it, because I couldn't understand it.
It's as a manager, there are things that needs to be done, and sometimes people do not see the same way as you see it, and so they disagree. And it's healthy as well to disagree. If we all agree, then we're not gonna go very far. So it's good to have different opinion. And empathy, it will allow you to know that the feeling of that other person, and to take it in consideration. Because if that person is is not happy about that decision, first, if you don't know that they are not happy because you don't have any empathy whatsoever, you're not interested in that, you might just not know.
Yeah.
So you just tell them you go that direction and you feel that they're all right with it.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that they're not all right with it,
Yeah.
well, you can't address it. Which means that, and if you don't address it, then you might not end up where you were, where you want to end up, or where you have to end up. So it's really important to empathy. I think is a concept and is a skills. I don't know, a soft skills that is interesting to develop, not just for that reason, but also coming back to listening to yourself. Like, why do I feel stressed in that situation where I should not, and to work on this. So it's all linked as well.
Yeah.
But empathy, there's an author called Brené Brown,
Brené,
which is particularly good on that subject, and I like the way she explained that concept of empathy means being present with the other person. So when they their life is they're not happy about their life and they're not happy. There's a video I share that in the source of the book. It's where she explained that you don't want people to tell you, don't worry. Well, yes, but you've got a really good family. So it's not that bad. You don't want to hear that.
That is not
when
what
you're
people want to
down
hear
there in that
when
cave.
they are
You don't
going
want to
through
hear
stuff.
that. You just want someone to be with you.
You
You just want someone to listen to you and be like, I understand. I understand your feeling. And so as a manager, I think it's also key. It's one of the keys. And again, you develop it your own way. There's no one way to be empathetic. But it's very important to build relationship. Because at the end of the day, we are human beings. I'm not saying like you should be friends with your team, because you might not share the same hobbies. You might be completely different, but it doesn't mean you cannot work together. And it doesn't mean that you cannot understand others' position. You don't have to agree, and you don't have to change your strategy. But you that's how you instill respect, and which means trust as well, and engagement. And it's a lot more. It's life. It's a lot more interesting this way, Otherwise, that's what happened to me. Where when I shifted, it's not happening in one day. But I did not like going to the office because my team will be like, "Oh, there's this problem and this problem and blah blah blah," and I felt some anxiety. But when I shifted and tried to know them more, being more myself
connect
as well,
with them,
then I was happy to see them. I did not become the best friends. We did not hang out, But during that time, I felt that I was happy to be in the office, and I was happy to have some chit chat and to talk to them, etc. And I actually enjoyed it, and I feel like they enjoyed it as well because of the relationship. Now we'll have to ask them, but usually. You can feel the vibes.
I get it. I mean, we don't have enough time. Our time is getting up already. But there is one thing that I came across from the book as well that I want you to touch on briefly. Then we'll take the interview to the next level and wrap up. And it's about something that you spoke about, that as managers, it's really important to allow our employees to inculcate into their responsibilities, like in going about their job, something that brings them joy. As managers, it's very important that we allow them to bring that into their into executing their responsibilities, because you feel like it drives results and stuff like that. Why that?
So it's about it's the planet love that you're talking about. When you love doing something, then you're in that flow state. And there's some studies about this that I share in the book. But what is it important is usually when and that's what I'm trying to find in every activity that I do, because as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of things that I'm doing that I don't like. Administration, sending invoice paper. I mean, I like sending invoices, but the paperwork.
Because that is money.
Well, it means that someone's happy with our services. So and again, the money allows to have more impact. And to build stuff that will go
to
towards
create
that
value.
mission. So that's what I'm trying to do, to find joy, because there's obviously it makes you more engaged in performance. So which means that you're gonna stay longer in that company. It means that you are stimulated. So at the end of the day, you're happy about yourself. And when this happens, it's because it's when people are tapping into their potential, in their talents, because we're all different. We have different talents, and it's about helping your employees to find their talents. Right. It's difficult enough for them to find it. So for you to find their talents, it's even more difficult. But it's really to allow them to express themselves in different ways. Just a very small example. One of my employees, they wanted to use that software because it was all shiny, and when you clicked on something, there's a unicorn that was going through the screen, and I was like, this is useless. For me, it is useless. But this is the small things that makes their
it brings them joy.
It brings them joy. It makes them appreciate the process or on their work. So why not? Having that unicorn on their screen doesn't matter to me, but it matters to that person. And everybody's different. So it's about allowing them, giving them that space so they can find what they like, what makes their journey easier. And so you enjoy the ride. That's my philosophy of life, is that enjoy the ride. Do what you can to enjoy, because why not?
All right, guys. You've heard from the horse's own mouth, the man himself, Renaud Vandewalle. I have to be, I have to be careful with how I pronounce your surname, because of how it is. Renaud Vandewalle, and he's the one behind the Anti-Hero Coaching Company. A company established to help managers and business leaders, go about, leading and managing their teams really well to drive organizational results. And now with a new book that he's published, which I'm showing to your screen, The Intergalactic Journey of a Manager, the Anti-Hero Mindset for Modern Management. I would entreat you to grab a copy if you want to be successful as a manager and as a leader. And you know that whenever we've had a podcast and I'm recommending a book to you to grab a copy to help yourself with it, you know me, there's no way I'm going to recommend a bad book to you. And so for me talking about this, it's a great book. So I would entreat you to grab a copy for yourself and help your teams and your organizations drive the result that you seek to drive. Now, my last two questions before we wrap up, now, even before the questions, where can people find you? Social media, if you have any social media handles, can you put it out there so that if anybody wants to be in touch for coaching, for help, whatever, reason to work on projects, they can be able to get through to you?
Yeah. So first is the website, antiheromanagement.com, all attached. And I'm primarily and solely for now on LinkedIn as well, where I post a few times a week. So if you want to find out more, that's where I would start.
Now, the question I want to ask is, you've made us know about your journey, the things that you've been through, the good, the bad, the ugly, the whatever, to establishing your company, and for that matter, writing this book and being in the space that you are in, creating value for the world. The question I want to ask is, so far with all that you've been able to do with your life, would you say you are fulfilled? Do you feel successful, financial wise, health wise, family relationship wise, in all these areas, would you consider someone successful in all these areas, and are you fulfilled so far with your decision, and for that matter, your results?
Yes, and it's difficult to be fulfilled.
If you say that, what do you mean?
What I'm saying is that it's every day to remind yourself, practicing gratitude. I truly feel it to my core that I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky, to have my family to be healthy, to have a roof, to have
Yeah.
food,
Yeah.
and to enjoy what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and to help people. Getting feedback from the book,
Yeah.
getting feedback from my customers.
Yeah.
It's yes. I don't need more. I
Yeah.
don't need more.
Yeah.
Why I'm doing this? It's definitely not for me. Otherwise, I would be
Yeah.
a lot more
Yeah.
comfortable in my couch, looking at my TV, not looking at that camera over there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I am fulfilled,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a mindset as well.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you could talk about things this way, and I can feel it too, because I remember the last time I had the opportunity to speak to you on a call, and the issue of we talking about the book came into the picture. You were like, I've written this book not because I want to make money. I've written this book because I want to give value to the world. And so whether it sells or it doesn't sell, that is not my problem. My problem is the message that was put on my heart.
Yep.
I've worked around it and I've put it out there into the world. So that is what,
Yep.
my focus, is, So like I've said, I can feel, the truth in what you've said. Now, my final question that I ask every guest before they
Yep.
leave the interview is about success. What is success to you? And the reason why I ask this question is that you and I know what the culture and society is portraying to us as success every day. That it's all about the material stuff and stuff like that. But as you know, things are changing, and the times are changing with us as far as our individual education and our individual journeys are concerned. I think the paradigm is also shifting from that. So, in your own words, I don't know what success means to you. So, I need you to let me know about it. What is success to you?
Yeah. What is success? What is success to me is um, to be present with yourself and people around you. It's to do what you think is right. It's more of a, again, it's more of a process than a result. So
Yeah.
it's really about doing what you believe that you should do, and get out there, be vulnerable. That, for me, I mean, again, success is it's not a state that you get to. Success is a mindset as well in your mind, like fulfilled, being successful. Yes, I am successful to myself. Does people feel that I am successful? Does it matter? It's not going to it's not going to make me successful if people believe that I'm successful, because there's a lot of people that you feel that are very successful, and they don't feel that they are successful. They're still looking at more. So
Wow. Anyway, I would reserve my comment on that. But what I want to say is that that's a great definition, and it's kind of a great mindset that I think we as individuals, in going about our lives, if we should carry such a mindset, then the pressure should I say, will take the pressure on us off. The pressure with the idea of having to look, all shiny with a lot of materials around you, to show to the world that you are successful. We're gonna put that pressure somewhere. So I appreciate with that definition, and thank you so much for gracing our platform. So guys, you've heard it all. The man himself, whatever that he's all about, he's explained everything to us, and I think by now, at least you've gotten to know who he is and his journey so far to this very space that he's in creating the value that he's creating for the world. But like I've said, once again, I will entreat you, especially if you're a manager out there or you seek to become a manager, to grab a copy of his book and help yourself with it. As is going to be a blessing for you. And like we always say, whenever we are about to wrap up the interview, no matter how challenging, no matter how difficult life seems, always try and try to become your successful self, because that is actually who you are and that is what is expected of you. And until we meet again in the next episode, please remember to subscribe, like, and comment, and let's know about your thoughts over the whole conversation. And we'll see you again in the next episode. Stay blessed. Thanks so much.